Hello, I'm Lay Lemonade, or you can call me Allie. This video is going to be all about cold porcelain. Cold porcelain is a homemade air dry clay. I started using and making cold porcelain sometime at the beginning of April, and I'm going to be comparing cold porcelain to polymer clay since a lot of people have used polymer clay and know what that feels like, or have polymer clay. And it's not my intention to knock down polymer clay. It's really great, but for me, I prefer cold porcelain now that I know about it and how to make it. So just want to put that out in the open. Polymer clay is fantastic for some people, but for me personally, I prefer cold porcelain. So this is a half batch of cold porcelain. One of the least favorite aspects of cold porcelain that I have is the making process, so I probably will not show you how to make cold porcelain just because of that simple fact. If you want to know how to make it, there are tons of tutorials on YouTube of how to make cold porcelain. I find the process really messy, and the aftermath of the cleanup is rather annoying because I use gloves. I have to soak them overnight, and as well as the container, and then wash them out in the morning. Also, something to note is that if you are pouring the stuff down the drain, like from the container, like the residue, be very careful because you are pouring glue down the drain. I tend to let it sit at the bottom, then scrape it out into the garbage. That's my tip for you guys. Here is a half batch. I just halved the recipe, and this is a full batch over here. I made these both yesterday, so they do need some time to rest. That's another aspect of cold porcelain, that you do need to let this rest 24 hours after you make it. So can it get a little bit frustrating, especially when you've run out and you're like, oh no, I need to wait an entire day to use more cold porcelain, whereas polymer clay, you can just pop out to the store, buy some polymer clay, and then you be on your merry way and just make your piece that you want to. So here's cold porcelain. You can color this a variety of ways. I'm pretty sure you could also use glitter in these and it would come out pretty cool. I use acrylic paints. You can also use markers, like marker colors like Sharpies, I think, to color your polymer clay. These are a variety of paints that I have used. They are all acrylic, just so you know. Here are some examples of my colored clay. I have a couple colors left over. I made up those batches yesterday so I can make more stuff today. So the colors are really fantastic. They're very bright and vibrant, and you can just make whatever color you want or need at the time. I store them in a variety of ways. The most common one I use is a plastic sandwich bag such as this one. I put cream along the inside to make sure it stays nice and moist and not have contact with the air so it will dry out, because it is an air dry clay, right? So I use sandwich bags like this, and I just put the clay in the corner, twist it up, and then toss it into that bigger Ziploc bag. Another way I found to store polymer clay, cold porcelain, that works really well is one of these little containers. I put cream along the insides as well as the top, and then put the clay inside, and it seems to be really working well. You can see it's really soft. That's another thing about cold porcelain. It's really super soft, as you can see. I have a ball of polymer clay over here, and this is I'm pressing with the same amount of force, and you can see this polymer clay gives more resistance, and it is a thicker ball, so let me just chop it up or pull off a smaller piece so it's a little more fair, I suppose. So here are about the same sizes of clay, and I'm pressing with the same amount of force. You can see this one is just much softer. This is more resilient. Like I said, polymer clay, you oven bake. The colors are kind of as they come in package. You do have to buy packages of polymer clay, and I think they come in a smaller amount. Then you can make a cold porcelain batch. So these are more resilient, but some people like the resistance of polymer clay. But this is what cold porcelain is like. It's super soft. It could be problematic for some people, and that's the test of polymer cold porcelain. This is polymer clay. This is cold porcelain. Alright, let's get that down. Also, another thing about this, the cold porcelain, I have to now pick my words really carefully. I'm getting a bit jumbled. Another thing about cold porcelain is that the color darkens just a smidgen once you finish drying the piece. So this is the clay beforehand, and this is it afterwards. The color does darken. It's more apparent for darker colors if you're making black or something like that. The color will look lighter, but it will darken. So not to worry if you color it lighter. If you color it darker and it dries, it will dry darker. So don't have too much worry about that. Another thing is that your pieces do shrink. So here is a donut I made today, and this is a donut I made about a week ago. So you can see the size is rather substantial for a piece. I mean, polymer clay does shrink a little bit when you bake it, but I don't think it shrinks this much. So that's another thing you may want to keep in mind. I have used cold porcelain. I have used cold porcelain to make pieces. I made this little sheepy, so you can see you can get quite good detail on your pieces that you make with cold porcelain, as well as you could do with polymer clay. Another thing to mention is that I've had this polymer clay, well, look at me, I'm messing up. I've had this cold porcelain for well over a month, and I used this old hair dye container. I put cream along the inside as well as the lid, and this has been well over a month, and it is still soft. This is still softer than the the polymer clay. It's still softer than the polymer clay. This cold porcelain, that's polymer clay. Alright. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time.